Hey guys, we're going to talk about knife skills. I'm super excited to jump right in. I hope that you're having a great Friday, and I'm super excited to chop up some veggies. Let me show you what we got. We have celery, a carrot, an onion, which I know a lot of you want to learn how to do. We've got a bell pepper, and I'm excited to show you my fancy hack for this. Some garlic, broccoli, and also a sweet potato, because I also get asked a lot about how to cut sweet potatoes. So first of all, I want to talk about what knives you actually need in your kitchen. There's really only one knife you truly need, and that is the chef's knife. That's this guy right here. This is an 8-inch chef's knife from Misen. They are about $65, and they can do it all. But if you want to get other knives, a paring knife could be really useful. So this is a small one. You want to use it for like chopping up some fruit really quickly and just kind of the small jobs. But I honestly barely ever use a paring knife. The last one you need, the essential, is a serrated knife. So a serrated knife is, looks like that. And you're gonna wanna use this for thicker vegetables, tomatoes, bread, and stuff like that. But that's really it. I only use this guy when I'm chopping up tomatoes or maybe an eggplant or something with a thick skin, or bread. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the biggest knife sharpening expert, but I'll show you what I do use to sharpen my knives, and that is simply a sharpening stone. This is from a company called Whetstone Cutlery. I got on Amazon for like $11. I've only used it a few times, and that is what I use to sharpen a knife. But there's a lot of ways to do it. That's what I choose. It's very minimal, gets the job done. If your knives aren't sharp though, like it's gonna take you a long time to chop things, and also it can be really dangerous. So you really wanna make sure your knives are sharp. Do not put your knives in the dishwasher. It does actually make them dull. So those are the knife rules. So first I'm gonna chop up some celery just to show you guys the technique. You wanna be holding the knife kind of partially on the blade and partially on the handle here, like this. My fingers are tucked away from the blade, safe, and they're nowhere near it, so they're not gonna get anywhere near that blade. But this gives you a lot of control. If you're back here, you don't have a lot of control, so you wanna be kind of holding onto the actual blade like this. And you do not wanna do this. This is incorrect. This is fine if you're, chopping up, like if you're cutting chicken or steak at dinner, but that's not how you want to chop vegetables. This is the safest way to hold your knife. In terms of actual technique, you want to keep the blade on the cutting board at all times in this kind of rocking back and forth motion. There's no you shouldn't be hearing that when you're chopping. It should really just be like that, like a seesaw motion. The proper way to hold what you're cutting is this. I don't do this like knuckle professional thing. It's a little bit tough for me. I kind of just get my fingers out of the way and hold onto my produce like this. So I'm gonna do that, but you want to square your hips kind of like diagonally with the counter. You don't want to be like this to the counter. You kind of want to be on your side, and that way you can see better over your knife and actually see what you're cutting. So you can see how I'm kind of just slowly, carefully rocking my knife's never leaving the cutting board here, and everything's even. And this actually feels good. Okay, so it's also really important to notice that these are all pretty much the same size. You want your produce and things you're chopping to be the same size because it'll cook more evenly, and also it looks better. So that's the basic technique, that rocking back and forth motion. If you're at home cooking right now, I'd love for you to try it. It's kind of therapeutic and fun, to just do it like that. If I'm making like a soup and I'm chopping celery and carrots and onion, I would put all those ingredients just on one plate, so I remember that all of those ingredients are for that meal. And this is the technique for getting stuff on a plate that I learned in cooking school or cooking class, is this kind of scoop and sweep motion like that. You don't have to pick stuff up and put it on the plate, you just sweep it right onto the plate. So you want to make sure when you're cutting onion that this root at the end stays intact, and we're going to be working from the tip here. So first thing I'm going to do is safely and carefully cut it in half. Hold on, let me get you guys some see. So once we have our half, we want to make sure you put it base side down. You never want to chop anything with the round side up. It's too slippery. Your knife could slip. This could be a disaster. Always put the flat side down on your cutting board. So we're going to take off the tip part. We're going to compost this. We're actually going to make veg stock out of this another night, so I'm going to put this on another plate for all my scraps to make veg stock. We're going to peel the onion like this. Again, keeping this root intact. There are a lot of ways to do this. When I started doing it, I was chopping like totally wrong. This is the way I learned in cooking class. So you want to get a good grip, again, a safe grip, and you just want to cut like against, or I guess kind of with the lines, kind of this way, through the onion, making pieces like this. So kind of like, but again, don't cut through the root. So that's kind of what you're aiming to do here. It's okay that these are pretty thick. Again, we're not perfectionists. We're not going for a very small dice here, and you want to get as close to the root as possible, but it's okay if you don't. So now I have an onion that's still intact, but it's gonna give me some nice even pieces. So then we're just gonna cut across and we're gonna have perfect squares. And that is the fast, safe, easy way to chop onion. And then once the side gets a little short, you want to flip it over like that, right? Because it's going to be it's too narrow to cut like this, but it's thicker this way. So continue on, cut like that, cut the sides a little bit, and then we're left with this guy. We cut a little more, don't want to waste anything, and that will go in the stock. So from here, if you want to get them a little smaller and more, they're not perfectly uniform, like we have some odd pieces like this, you can do another kind of chop through, and the way you want to do that is put your hand on top of the blade, keep the tip of the knife on the cutting board, and just kind of chop it up like that a little bit. And that's pretty much what we're going for. Again, we're not perfectionists. It's okay if not every single piece is the same size, but this is pretty close, and this is going to be great for anything you want to saute or put in a soup or anything like that. Okay, so this is another common vegetable that people, there are a lot of different ways to do this, but here's a way that I learned that also helps reduce waste. So this way, again, we really don't want to waste the vegetable. That's kind of like a huge part of chopping properly. We want to get as much as we can. So we're just slicing off a little bit off the top, right? And we can use this. I'm not going to throw that out. I'm only going to throw out this part, which is the stem, and we're going to chop off a little bit of the bottom. Again, we can use that. But why am I doing this? To give myself a flat surface to chop on. So then we're going to chop kind of this way so that we get like these big chunks of the pepper without getting the seeds everywhere. See, the seeds stay inside. That piece of pepper is good to go. And this kind of blew my mind when I saw it for the first time, so look at that. See, no mess. This will not go in our stock. Pepper actually makes veg stock bitter, so we're just gonna compost that. So from here, when you have your pepper pieces, it's easier to cut the pepper when it's on the outside is down, because the side's a little bit softer. So that's kind of, again, it's kind of hard to hold, so you really have to make sure your fingers are out of the way, but that is what we are going for here. So this is how we do strips. And if you wanted to dice them into squares, you want to line them up like this. You can bunch them all up at the same time and just cut the other way carefully and make little squares. And that is how we have a dice. Perfect. Looks really good. And if you wanted to, I don't know, julienne, like make really thin strips, you have to cut really thin with the pointy part of your knife, like the very end. It's going to be very helpful for that. So that's another way we can do it. There's a lot of things you can do with peppers. I love them. I'm gonna freeze this for later. So that's pepper. Basically, when you're cutting vegetables with this shape, you wanna make sure you have that flat edge. So I'm gonna do a chop. We could chop this way and kind of give ourselves a flat edge this way, but I'm gonna do it this way. Again, you want a really sharp knife for this because sweet potatoes can be really tough. Okay, see that? Now we have our flat base. It's safe to cut. Let's do, if you wanted to do fries, for example, you just want to make sure that you are cutting lengthwise. Again, sharp knife here is going to be really helpful. Cutting lengthwise like that. Boom. And then you can cut, make them shorter, make them skinnier, like that. And that's how you get fries. I would probably cut these down a little bit. They're really long, but this is that's a little too thin. Whoops. But yeah, that's how we do fries. For like a hash or something, you can kind of just cut it this way. Boom. And now we have these cute little half moon wedges, and you can cut these down into quarters. And that is the sweet potato. Again, uniformity is really important, especially for cooking sweet potatoes so they don't over or undercook in the oven. All right, we're doing broccoli next. I think broccoli, honestly, like we waste a lot of it when we're chopping, so I want to show you guys what I would do. You can eat the stems. There's nothing wrong with broccoli stems. Like, you do not have to throw them out. But for this, like if you do eat, oh, also these leaves are really good to eat too. They're very rich in vitamins, so you do not want to toss these guys. These can totally be eaten. So it depends on what you're making, but generally you want to, I like to just chop broccoli in half like this and kind of get this size. It does shrink when you cook it, so if this feels too big or too much stem, of course you can take that off, but again, you want to keep it or compost it for later cooking or broth. But that's kind of how I would do it. And then from here, you know, most of us just kind of cut across, but you don't have to. You can kind of keep that stem going or cut it down. But we just don't want to waste a lot of the vegetable. That's kind of what I'm getting at here, because I think, again, cutting down food waste is what we want to do. And that's broccoli. I mean, it's up to you how small you want. I mean, you can grate this, you can chop it up really small or put it in the food processor to make like broccoli rice, but this is kind of how I would keep it. And that is broccoli. Easy. All right, garlic, our old friend. So what I want to do with garlic, there's a lot of ways to peel garlic. I'm sure you've seen some of those viral videos. By the way, you can keep this for making veg stock, so I'm going to put that aside. I generally just like to pop out one pod, or two, I guess we're doing two. So from here, again, a lot of people like to buy pre-chopped garlic. I never do that. I want fresh garlic all the time. So you just want to chop off the end root, which again can be saved for broth. And you want to put your knife on the garlic like this and just give it a little smack. And that will then release the pod from the peels and stuff. Boom, easy. And it's also very therapeutic. So from here, you can kind of give it a little more of a smack and then just do our mincing technique I showed you earlier with your hand on the blade and just chopping it up kind of like that. And with garlic, again, it really doesn't matter if it's uniform or not. This is just one way to do it. This is the fastest way. You see that took me like 30 seconds and I was explaining it to you, so it would be a little faster if I wasn't. So the other thing we do with garlic sometimes is slicing it, so I'll show you guys how to do that. And this is where you might want to get that paring knife out because it is so little. Whoa, that was a good one. It's okay if it's smashed like this, but if you're gonna slice it, again, you want to just really carefully, slowly. So that's kind of if you want to get those nicer slices like this. That's what you can do. Also, if your hands are garlicky, you can actually just rub them on some stainless steel, and that actually gets the smell out, and it gets your hands not sticky anymore. All right, have a great night, guys. Bye.